Everybody, this is Herb Knoll. He is a dear friend, and actually, his wife was a past client of mine. And through over the course of time, we've remained in touch since I helped them sell their house. And he received one of my videos one day. The video was on downsizing, wasn't it, Herb?
That's right. Yes, exactly.
Okay. And so I think it was about a month ago, I was in New Orleans, and Herb reached out to me about that downsizing video. And he brought something to my attention that I had never really given a whole lot of thought to. And he actually was talking to me about people who become widowers. And that would be, in particular, that would be men who are widowers. Is that correct?
Right. That's the ministry that I have. I serve widowers all around the world.
Okay. So, talk to me. How did you start? How did you start this ministry?
In 2008, I lost my wife to pancreatic cancer while I was living in San Antonio, Texas. About 4 months later, in my office at a bank where I worked, one of my staff members walked into my office and stood in the doorway and said, "The entire floor misses your laughter." And that was a wake-up call for me. And I'm sort of known for my laughter. So I realized that I wasn't in a good place. And I decided to do something about it and to go out and seek help. So I went to my church. I went to the Veterans Administration because I'm a disabled vet. And I also went to Barnes& and Noble. And as I walked into Barnes& and Noble, I asked the clerk behind the counter, "What do you have for a widower?" And the gentleman typed widower into his search engine and looked up at me and said, "Mister, I don't have anything for you." So that's when I realized that widowed men are underserved. And I will learn later they're misunderstood. As a result of that, I decided that I was going to do something about it. And I left my 38-year career in banking and I dedicated my life to serving widowers and those who love them. And I spent the first 9 years researching the problems that widowers face. And I wrote and published a book called The Widower's Journey. And it was released a couple of years ago. And today I operate the Widowers Support Network, which is a ministry. And there we serve over 350 men around the world located in 19 different countries. And we deal with every issue imaginable that men face, and they face many, 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 many.
Wow, what a journey. And what a brave, bold choice to leave a 38-year career. What causes someone to do that?
I was in a position where I could, for one thing. Not many folks are in that position. I had that good fortune. But I was so disappointed with how society treats men. And when I learned some of the facts, like the suicide rate among widowed men is 3 or 4 times higher than that of married men, that they have an increased rate of diabetes and hypertension and other ailments, that I realized that somebody better do something about this, and that person was me. So I'm happy to do it. I will tell you it's been a big sacrifice, but it's also the best thing I've ever done.
So, and that's inspiring. I guess what does this network do for the people that you reach out to and connect with?
First of all, we give them a forum. I have several different channels that I use to communicate with those that follow me. I have 2 Facebook pages. I have a website. I do public engagements. I do broadcast media and things of that nature. And I also do one-on-one consultations. And by the way, everything we do for free. We don't even solicit donations.
Wow.
The one-on-ones, I actually have conversations with men about the challenges that they're facing. And I also have conversations with their family members who call me, who are worried about dad. Why is dad behaving that way? Or the ladies that date widowers. Why is he always talking about his deceased wife? There's a lot of issues. And among them also, by the way, is financial. A lot of men's, their careers suffer. They're distracted. They don't care anymore. One man said to me, I have nobody left to impress. So why am I working? And they make a lot of mistakes because they don't think that they have permission to grieve. So they always say things like, oh, I'm fine. Just leave me alone with my thoughts. They're not fine. They're not even close to being fine. And I don't particularly care who the man is or how strong or manly he thinks he is. They're not fine. And if they're caregivers on top of it, then they have even another problem to face. Like I was a caregiver for 39 months. Because when you're a caregiver, men tend to dismiss their own aches and pains. And they don't go see a doctor maybe when they should. And then by the time they finally go see a doctor, now the condition that they had that could have been prevented is much worse. So it just compounds the problems that they face. So we have one Facebook page that is for the general public. And we make a lot of material available on that Facebook page. And it's called the Widowers Support Network. And we have volunteer columnists who write columns that are inspiring. We talk sports. We talk muscle cars. We talk gardening. We talk cooking for one. We talk dating, relationships, sex, faith, careers, pets. The handyman's corner. We have music of our era. We have cartoons. We have open dialogue. A man will ask a question about something that he's facing. Maybe it's a challenge with his previous mother-in-law, or maybe it's something about his children or his career, and he will raise the issue. And then men from all around the world will chime in and offer their opinions and best practices. And it's just become a hotbed of effectiveness for the men who know that it's out there. And frankly, it's impressive to me that the men have demonstrated so openly that they care about each other. They truly care. I mean, you can hear the tears between their words and the sorrow that they're expressing. And it impresses me so much that I don't do any advertising. And yet this thing is just mushrooming. It's growing in size because there's such a need out there for men because they have no place else to turn.
It sounds like fertile ground for healing and for really foundation for life to begin again. I wrote down one thing that you said. A gentleman said to you, "Leave me alone with my thoughts," and I just couldn't imagine being alone with my thoughts sometimes because my yeah.
Actually, one gentleman who happens to reside in Florida, I asked him once. By the way, there were 40 men in my book who shared their very personal stories with me. And they tolerated my questions for 9 years. And I went very deep with my questioning. And I asked this one gentleman, what was the best thing that ever happened to you during your grief journey? And he said, when I told my family and friends, I'm fine, leave me alone with my thoughts. They ignored my instructions and forced their way into my life. And I'm so glad that they did. So that's men that need help, but they don't know how to ask for it. And people don't know what to do with men, even corporations. They'll tell men and women who lose somebody, well, why don't you go see our EAP officer, and they'll send you a psychologist to go see 3 times for 1 hour each. And then the corporations basically wash their hands of it. Meanwhile, this person is still limping along in life and having all the problems and trauma.
Can you give me an interesting story of how this group has helped someone?
Yes, there's a gentleman who will nameless because my page for widowed men, the second Facebook page, is private. He's from California. He came on our Facebook page and revealed to the membership that he had intended to commit suicide. And he discovered our services. He purchased my book. He read the book. Among the things I speak about is go see a doctor. He went and saw a doctor. The doctor got him the help. And today he's not thinking that way. In fact, he has a new relationship in his life. And admittedly, this took a 12-month period. But he's back. And he was he was so moved by it that he wanted to share his story with our membership. That's how candid these gentlemen can be with one another.
That's rich. That's huge. And it sounds like you've got peers helping peers and understanding and discovering that they're not alone.
Right. And what's very interesting also is you have men from across different cultures. I mean, we're talking from India to Nigeria to England to Australia to New Zealand to Canada to Mexico, Paris. You know, there's lots of different cultures, different ages. I have men who are as early as in their 20s. I have some men in their 90s.
Oh, wow.
And I have men of color. I have men who are Caucasian. I have men who are straight. I have men who are gay. I have men who are in the military. I have corporate officers, and I have truck drivers. You know, it's the entire pool, the whole universe of men. By the way, we also entertain and service men whose, let's say, wife has Alzheimer's, and she can't speak to him anymore. He's a caregiver, and he really lost his wife already.
Yeah.
People who have an unwanted divorce. They didn't want to get divorced. They loved their wife, but the wife left them. And one man in particular, his wife left them with 5 children under the age of 7. He's one of our.
Oh, wow.
So there's some tragic cases out there, and these men have feelings, even though a lot of folks don't want to give men credit for that. In our audience, tears are a common day occurrence, and we don't object.
I think a lot of times the world gets it backwards, or maybe even men or anybody gets it backwards. From my perspective, tears are a strength. That's a sign of authenticity and willingness to be vulnerable. This is rich that you're bringing a forum where people have an opportunity to be vulnerable and be authentic. That's a leadership quality. So thank you for that. I was wondering if someone wanted to get a copy of your book, or perhaps if they wanted to reach out to you, how would someone do that?
Okay, well, the book, which is the Widowers Support Network, the Widower's Journey, is available on Amazon. It's available in digital format as well. And you can also order it through Barnes & Noble, other bookstores like that. Or if you wanted an autographed copy, you can write to me at herb@widowerssupportnetwork.com. You can also register on the page at widowerssupportnetwork.com. And I would encourage men and women both to follow the Facebook pages, because women love this book as much as men do, because there's so much content in there. Yeah. And I should tell you, the approach of the book is a little different. Men are fixers, okay? They like fixing things. They don't have a lot of theory. So I'm not a theorist. I went after the issues of the day. And I said, okay, gentlemen, the 40 men I have, here's a problem. We have problems with career. We have problems with, let's say, finances. Here's what one particular man was facing. What should he do about it? And these men gave me their fixes. So what I believe will happen when someone who reads the book, whether it be a woman or a man, is they will see the solution or see the problem, and then they'll see recommended best practice solutions. And if it doesn't fit their needs exactly, they can twist it around and make it work for themselves. But most important of all, I want the widowed people to understand that they own the fix. It's going to come from them. Yeah. And we're going to help them come to that idea on how to do that. So I would register on the website, men or women, register on the Facebook page. And if you know a widowed man, or a man who's lost a life partner, or a man who's a caregiver for a terminally ill person, or someone like you, Mark, who is a good-hearted man who wants to help those other men, you can sign on and apply for membership at Widower Support Network-members only. And that's the page that's really getting all the attention.
Thank you for that, Herb. So I thought it was really interesting, just like the moment I hung up the phone with you when I was in New Orleans, when you called me about my video, like the moment I hung up, someone came to my mind. and they were a dear friend of mine from my Rotary Club. And he actually was working. He had his wife had Alzheimer's, and he cared for her for a good 6 years. And she just died recently. So I believe that this is a wonderful platform. That's why I'm putting it out there. There's more to life than just business and doing things. And when I heard what your intentions were, I wanted to get this out to my database because I truly believe that this can help others. So thank you.
So very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
We need more folks like you, frankly, that will broadcast this opportunity because the men are vulnerable and they need the help. And
I'm grateful for you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to if we could discuss downsizing. Which
yeah.
prompted me.
That was my video. Okay.
There are a lot of men who need to downsize. And I will tell you, I come from the finance world in banking. And I know something about mortgages and all that kind of topics. And a lot of men don't realize that they do need to downsize. So I think it's important that we put it on the table as a topic for a lot of folks to consider. And it doesn't mean that you're surrendering the lifestyle you once knew. It means you're making a good business decision and not an emotional decision. And I would be interested in your thoughts about that.
Well, I think what's interesting is as I do quite a bit with probate and estate sales of real property. And what I've come to learn through those processes is that there are two very real components to when someone decides to sell or maybe move a property. The first component is just the business and the nuts and bolts of it. Like, hey, what's it worth? What do I got to do? How do I clear the stuff out? And then there's the second component that's as real, and it's the emotional component. And and what I've come to discover is frequently there can be anxiety and even guilt around letting that physical thing go in their life. It's a house, it's a physical thing. And that has to be dealt with, that emotion has to be dealt with as much as, the nuts and bolts of the transaction. And that's why I wanted to bring you onto my site, because if you can help others process and deal with that emotion, then it could put them on a stronger financial path. They could have more stability financially in their own experience. And I think those two things kind of marry and come together. Does that make sense?
Well, let me give your viewers a big tip. Again, coming out of the banking industry, this is something that I always told my clients. If you are a married person or if you have a life partner today and you have a residence, go out and get a home equity line of credit. Now, you may say, I don't need a home equity line of credit. And my answer is, yes, you do. Because a home equity line of credit is the product you need that you need when you qualify for it. Later on, if you lose your life partner or you lose your spouse, and now their income is gone and you have all this equity tied up in your house, but you no longer qualify for the home equity.
You can't access it, yeah.
Now you're facing possible foreclosure because you can't make the mortgage payments. If you had a home equity line of credit in advance, you would buy yourself more time to make some decisions, including downsizing.
Yep. You're not feeling under pressure.
But so many people who came to the bank where I would work and say, I have all this equity. Why can't I borrow against it? Because banks don't make loans based on equity. They make loans based on revenue streams.
And income. Yeah, that's right. Good point. Very good point.
If you lost your spouse's Social Security or pension or whatever, you may not qualify for it anymore, and you may be forced into a decision you don't want to make.
That's a really good point, Herb. I mean, I think about, God forbid, if something happened to, my husband, Derek, I'm just afraid, wondering who's going to handle the yard, because he does so many things in my life, and then really, it's like, what would happen? And I'd probably live in a 1-bedroom condo with all white walls, because he brings so much to my experience, and then to have that cushion, like you say, to where in the emotional state, I'm not forced to do anything. because we've made one smart financial choice in advance. And we do have a home equity line, so thank you.
And the thing about home equity loans is the banks will not cancel it because of a person passed away. It's still
Okay.
a live instrument that you can still use.